right, Heath, tell me that schools who are getting caught up in the sexy hires, there's that music again, are making a critical mistake like we are playing that music.
There are some hires that get more attention than others. There's no getting around it. If you're LSU and you go swipe Notre Dame's coach, or USC and you swipe Oklahoma's coach, woohoo, look at that. That's a big deal. Jimbo Fisher is going to leave FSU and go to Texas A&M for a 10-year deal worth a whole giant bag of money. Whoa, you're making a statement right there. Schools love making hires like that. Have any of those hires really worked out? Have they lived up to what they were supposed to be? I would say no. Not all of them have been equal failures, but none of them so far anything close to what the hype the day you made the signing was. Why is that? Well, in the case of Lincoln Riley, you brought a guy out to Southern California who'd never worked out there. Their recruiting in Southern California, which is supposed to be one of the absolute staples of why USC has been such a successful program, it's been a disaster because he had no connections there and hasn't really worked to make connections there. Lincoln Riley spent more time trying to get kids out of Georgia away from Kirby Smart than he has getting kids out of places like Mater Dei High that have been going to Southern Cal for years. Kelly, I mean, I think we've all kind of talked about, that felt like a weird fit, and it still kind of feels like a weird fit at LSU. Look at the top 10 right now, Matt. If you just look at the AP top 10, how many hires would be described as when they got made, whoa, statement hire, sexy hire? Maybe Lane for Ole Miss, although even then Lane was viewed as, I'm not sure. He had failed at Tennessee to an extent, really failed at USC. Kind of flaky, but it's Ole Miss. It's a good pickup for them. So let's give them that. Mario Cristobal going to Miami, leaving Oregon, which had money. That was a statement win for Miami. So again, I'll give it to him. And if you want to be generous, you could say Kalen DeBoer. Although again, even there, you had people say, he's only been at Washington for 2 years, but he had just coached in the national title game. So okay, we'll say half sexy for him. That's 2.5 out of the top 10. Look, Ryan Day promoting the OC. That's not sexy. Lord knows Cignetti wasn't sexy. People, if anything, were like, oh, yeah, that's going to be a huge difference maker for Indiana. I mean, you've got Brent Key, obviously promoted from within off an unsuccessful staff.
Elko wasn't super excited.
Mike Elko was not even the first target for Texas A&M. The vast majority of the current top 10 are coaches who are great fits at that specific job. Mike Elko, why was he great for A&M? Because he'd worked there. He understood the challenges and the benefits of the place, had some connections, could hit the ground running. Clark Lee played at Vanderbilt. Clark Lee understands why Vanderbilt football has been so bad and had a plan on how to address it, and it's worked. Those are the kind of hires that are much more likely to succeed than saying, ooh, shiny thing.
Agreed, but in this case, I think if you're Florida, for instance, the shiny thing is probably the best thing. That's Lane.
But see, this is the problem. They're putting themselves in a box, Matt, where John Sumrall is going to be a good coach for somebody from Tulane. There is no chance it will be Florida because Florida's saying we have to have an offensive guy. He has to be a guy from a major program. It can't be somebody from a lower level.
They just did that with Napier, right?
You are putting yourself in a position where if you don't get Lane, now who, Drinkwitz? Again, will he be splashy enough depending on how they do this year? You're limiting your talent pool that you're working with because you are forcing yourself into something. And Florida has done this before. They should have learned. They wound up with Jim McElwain. Why? Because they said, we spent 4 years with Will Muschamp. He had a miserable-to-watch offense. We must hire someone who's been a head coach because we failed twice with guys in Zook and Muschamp who haven't done the job, and they were defensive guys. We got to have an offensive head coach. And so when you say, well, it has to be an offensive head coach, he's got to be a play caller, got to have some SEC, they wound up kind of getting forced into McElwain. It didn't work because they were trying to limit their capacities before they even started the search. Just get the right coach for your job, and that may sometimes be that splashy name, but it's just as likely to not be, but get the right fit.
Well, I think Florida's going to be the test case for this because I don't think Lane's going to go, just my opinion. I think Lane's going to stay at Ole Miss. I think if you're Florida, then if you believe the reports on Marcus Freeman that they already made the call, I don't know. Maybe they did. Marcus Freeman said go fly a kite. They're going to get to a point where it's going to be top-flight assistants or NFL assistants. I don't know that. I mean, maybe there's a lower-tier head coach, but that's the same as the top-flight assistant. If you go get the OC from Alabama, whoever that is at the time, or the OC from Ohio State, that to me is the same as going to get the lower-tiered head coach like you talked about. That's not going to win the splash. Sometimes that ends up being right, but I don't know if Florida feels like, and they want to be right, but I feel like they need, in the moment, to win a press conference, to win the constituency, to win the headlines and to say it's going to be different this time. The problem is I don't know if that guy's out there. After Lane, that guy's not there.
No, I'm not sure it is. And I'm just telling you, they will not hire an assistant. They will not hire anybody group of 5. The money people are going to get their way. It's going to be a splashy guy.
Are you going to pay Lane $11-12 million?
They might. They might wind up having to do it. Look, I mean, they were dumb enough to try and pay Jaden Rashada $11.8 million. So who knows? Comparatively speaking, spending it on Lane sounds smart. But like a coach like North Texas's guy, Eric Morris, that's a guy who, among other people, he's the one who found Cam Ward when no one had any idea who he was. He found John Mateer when nobody knew who he was. Like, that guy is a really good offensive head coach. No chance that Florida would even think about him. They could get 7 down on their list. They wouldn't call a guy like that. I think that's dumb, Matt.